Om. 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 Sahana vavatu, Sahana bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we acquire the capacity to study and understand the scriptures. May our study be brilliant and maybe not cavil at each other. Om, peace, peace, peace unto us all. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. Welcome all of you to the Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Online Satsang. And we are doing the 9 gems. You know, the July 24th is the celebration of Guru Poornima in honor of our Guru and God Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And in preparation for that, we are doing this study guide, which is called 9 Gems. We selected 9 letters of Swami, because as we said, Swami's every word is a mantra, and every sentence is a sutra, aphorism. Every conversation is a Gita, and every discourse is a Veda. So it is nice to dive deep into his teachings. These are the letters written personally by Swami to his devotees, to spiritual seekers, and also to teachers, students, and people in different things. Ultimately, the purpose is to show them the goal of our life, which is self-realization. So we finished last week 2 letters we read. So just please, this is things, not only Shravanam. Shravanam is listening, but you need to do mananam. You need to contemplate, recollect what we did, and then finally see how we can put into practice. So the first is letter. Just I'll summarize the major points. Swami said there that our nature, we are really not this body, mind, and intellect. Repeatedly said that we are Satchidanandas. We are knowledge, existence, and bliss. That is one major point Swami said. Second is, he talked about what really bhakti is. Swami's bhakti is not an emotional thing. It is really seeing all in all. That means we should be able to experience the divinity in everything, everywhere. That is second point. So she talked about jnana. That means our real nature is Satchidananda. And second thing is a real devotion we call about is experiencing him in everything, everywhere, ever. And third, he talked about the law of karma. So if you want to be happy, as you sow good, you'll reap good. You sow bad, you will reap bad. So every time we need to be very careful what we think, do, or say, because these are all the law of karma. So that is the first letter we did. And second letter we did was mainly, Swami emphasized spiritual hunger. I think Swami says we need to have the divine discontent, because after having everything in life, just comfortable life, a nice home, food, shelter, still you have that discontent, because we are still, till we are connected with God, will not be happy. So he says you need to have that spiritual hunger. And that is also a gift of God. Like you have food in front of you, food you can have, but that hunger, you cannot buy hunger. You can buy food and nice food and have, but that hunger is God-given. Same thing, spiritual hunger, to have that craving for God, longing for God, is also a sign of His grace. So Swami says you should pray to God, give me this is hunger, that is called mumukshatva. We need to have that intense longing. Lord, I want you, nothing else. There are people, great saints like Alvars. They say we don't even care for liberation. What all we want is to have the love to your lotus feet. So those are the 2 letters we did. Now we'll start the 3rd letter. So we have total 9 letters. So we'll try to dive into all of them, read them, and contemplate before the Guru Poornima program. But you also can do on your own. We are on page 8. It is the handwritten, and page 9 if it is the one which was put in the regular script in the for you to easy to read. Otherwise, other one on page 8 is Swami's own handwriting, and subsequently, for the sake of clarity, this was put in the regular fonts and regular language. Okay, go ahead. So with Anupam, go ahead with the 3rd letter.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. We are starting on letter 3 of the 9 gems. If there are any questions or comments you'd like us to address, please put it in the Q&A and we'll try to address it as we go. Truth alone is one's real friend and relative. 30th August 1975. After long searches here and there, in temples and in churches, in earths and in heavens, at last you come back, completing the circle from where you started to your own soul, and find that He for whom you have been seeking all over the world, for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples, on whom you were looking as the mystery of all mysteries shrouded in the clouds, in nearest of the near is your own self, the reality of your life, body and soul. That is your nature. Assert it, manifest it. It is truth and truth alone that is one's real friend and relative. Abide by truth. Tread the path of righteousness, and not a hair of your body will ever be injured. Meditation is nothing else but rising above desires. Renunciation is the power of battling against evil forces and holding the mind in check. With love and blessings, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. This is a short letter, but it is packed with some very fundamental truths. And I find that as we read the letters, we have to read it quietly, in a quiet area, with the quietness of mind, and then reflect on it. So as I was reading this, the first paragraph itself is very deep, because all the practices we have in our worldly lives put God into a temple. We put Father in heaven, where hallowed be thy name. We put him somewhere and we separate him for us. And then Swami is saying this, and I believe Swami Vivekananda also said the same thing before, and many other people before him. He's again reiterating that he is within us. And if I go to Bhagavad Gita, I find the same thing the Lord Krishna said, but we forget it from time to time. There he said, Isha Sarva Bhutanam Hriddasya Arjuna Tishtati. He is in their heart. And Swami is saying, don't look from him elsewhere, he is your own nature. But the question is really, why are we not able to find him there? Actually embodied in the Constitution of India, actually, Satyameva Jayate, which means that truth will always triumph. And Swami is reiterating that Satya Dharma Shanti Prema Ahimsa, out of that, truth alone is the highest, abide by it. And how do you practice truth? Righteousness, right conduct. So this is Dharma. And he's saying that practice that and you'll always be safe. And the third point he's making here is meditation. We close our eyes and we try to focus on something above us. He's saying it's very simple. You have to control your desires and rise above your mind. And for that, renunciation is very important. It's the power of battling against evil forces. We are a mix of good and evil. Swami is reminding us that if you turn your mind away from evil, then that is renunciation.
So anyway, so the three main things in this particular letter. Swami says, number one is, we all are in search of God, right? So just, that is why Swami said, don't seek God, don't search, see God. That means in everything, whatever we see, first, yes, that is the stage. We all need some support. We need an idol, we need to go to a temple. There is nothing wrong, because there's a place where we get connected, because one-pointedly we get connected to God in a temple or a church or a synagogue or a mosque, because this is where two things, where you identify that God resides there, and people of similar bent of mind get together and pray. Then you get a special vibration. So it is very easy to get in tune with God in a temple or a church, any place of worship, like we meet in a Sathya Sai center. That is why this is formed. Like Swami says, you doctor, you white coat, it reminds of a doctor. A black coat reminds you of a lawyer. The police outfit, they say, reminds of police. Similarly, a place of worship, a temple, church, reminds you of God. It is good, but that is in the beginning stages. But we need to evolve. So don't confine them, and then try to see him not only in the church, temple, mosque, or synagogue, but it also you should see in everything, everywhere. That is why they said Prathamam Pratima Puja. First step is there. Nobody can become a PhD without going to primary school, secondary school, high school, then college and PhD. Similarly, in spirituality, it is a gradual progression. So you can't say, first, God is Nirakara, Nirguna, no form, no attribute. That is the truth. But a lot of us cannot relate to that. So that is why Pradhamam Pratima Puja. First, you worship God, giving Lord here and this. And people have seen that. Madhyamam Japat Stotradikam. Then you do the worship by chanting his name and singing his glory, Japan Stotra. And Uttamam Manasi Puja. Just then, next thing is you internalize. So just God is here in my heart, as he says, Hurdesha, because Swami says, where is your address? Like Swami beautifully said in one of the discourses, Arjuna asked, where is your address? Where do you live? He says, Hurdeshe Arjuna Tishtati. I stay in the indweller of all hearts. So finally, that is the address. So then you worship him, all your regular worship. What you do in the temple, here is a walking temple. So you don't need to wait for the temple. You have to make special efforts. You may be able to go there. With this COVID, sometimes they have even closed. But this temple, nobody can close. It is always available, anytime available. So you can worship that. So try to internalize that. Uttamam Manasi Puja. And then ultimately, Soham Puja Uttamottamam. The highest is to realize we are divine. That is what Swami said. First, you go in search, temple, churches, that is all good, and worship, and then realize he's there. And finally, you realize you are the divinity, you are the Satchidananda. So, Swami said that really the evolution. And for that, two things are important to have that. Even in the first letter, Swami said, emphasis of the purity of the heart. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So, anything we do, why we are not able to see God is with us. Why we are not able to see? Because of this darkness of ignorance or impurities. Get rid of the impurity. That is why pure heart. Then you can see. For the two important practices, truth, satya, and dharma. The truth is two things that is also level. Truth is fact. I saw this morning, I got up at 7 a.m. is a sunrise, sunset. That is fact. That is called Rutam and Satyam. So the absolute truth is something which never changes. Others are fact, like somebody you are wearing white shirt. Tomorrow you may be wearing a pink shirt. So that is changes. That is a fact for that time. Absolutely you are you. So that is the absolute thing, doesn't change. So real truth is God. So that is why Satyameva Jayate means when you are connected to truth, which is God, then you will be successful. So we need to be always connected with God. That is the ultimate truth. The others are facts of life. We need to tell the fact, that is why Rama went in exile to the forest for the sake of truth, and Satya Harishchandra gave up his kingdom, family. So we need to have that commitment, what we think, say, and do. The trikarana shuddhi, thought, word, and deed. But important is dharma also, how we conduct. And dharma is also in a regular sense, like truth. Dharma means right conduct. So behave, so don't hurt anybody by thought, word, or deed, work for the good of this society, community. But the highest dharma says, highest dharma is the Atma Dharma. Know that you are the Atma. Swadharma. Swadharma is the highest dharma. What is Swa means? Atma. So realize you are the Atman, that is the highest dharma. So these two are important. So truth and dharma, what is the regular level, what is the understanding? In the highest way, what truth is? God, and you are with Him, everything will be happy and good. And same thing with the dharma. And then the meditation. So if you want to know, here Swami is briefly saying, go about the desire. But people who want to know meditation, Swami himself wrote series of essays which came out in Sanatana Sarthi, which are published as Dhyana Vahini. So if you read Dhyana Vahini, so just it shows all the process of meditation, because that is the fashion of the day. Anybody is doing, I'm doing meditation. Swami says meditation is not that easy. There are Ashtanga Yoga, Patanjali you read. First is Yama. That means first you need to control the outer things, what you should not do, not stealing, not hurting. And Niyama, that what you should do, practice truth. Yama, Niyama, Asana, how you should have a right posture so that you are be able to concentrate at God. Then Pranayama, have the breath still. We are rapidly breathing, you can't focus. Pratyahara, just this is what it controlling desires. Your mind is going here, there, you can't concentrate even though you may sit. So first, this is preparation. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. Then comes the last three. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So this is the seventh stage is Dhyana, which is meditation. Dharana means concentration. Swami says concentration, contemplation, and meditation. Concentration is, that is why he says, just even 12 seconds, you just focus on that, then that becomes a dharana. 12 times 12, that is 144 seconds. That is 2 minutes, 24 seconds. If you can think 2 minutes, 24 seconds continuously, whatever it is, God or your Ishtadevata or anything, then it becomes dhyana. You did the dhyana already. So extra is all bonus if you really are doing that. But 2 minutes, 24 seconds, we can say that is dhyana. So you can see in the Dhyana Vahini how you should prepare. For that, if you have too many minds is scattered here, there, desire, you want to do that, even though you may sit for hours, you may not be able to think about God even for 2 minutes. So that is very important. Dharana, dhyana. And then if you do that, finally you get samadhi. That is 12 times that 2 minutes and 24 seconds, you become samadhi. That means you don't live in the body, mind, intellect. You live in that atmic consciousness. So that is about meditation. And then for that, we talked about even in the Sutra Vahini, Vivekam, Vairagyam, so renunciation. You need to give up the evil forces. Renunciation, Swami said, people think about renouncing the family and your work and going into the forest for meditation. No, Swami says, real renunciation is renouncing first all the negativity. That is, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Desire, anger, greed, attachment, pride, and jealousy. Because they will follow us. It is not that easy, we think. So this negative quality, desire, anger, greed, attachment, pride, and jealousy, you need to get it out, dissolve them. What is that? For that, Swami showed the easy solution, practicing the 5 human values, Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, Ahimsa. That is truth, right conduct, peace, love, and non-violence. If we do that, then we will experience that thing. So renunciation doesn't mean in the past. It is good because sometimes we get attached to family, our possessions. You need to be detached, but physically you don't need to run away. Mentally, like Janaka, that's why he's called Videha. Even though he was ruling a kingdom, he did it with most detachment. He think he's like a trustee of the Lord. So if we do that, even though we are intense activity, whether at home or work, so still you will be in tune with God. So that renunciation is renouncing the ultimately renunciation of the ego. That's why when it says cross, you get rid of the ego, then that is the real renunciation. But in the beginning, renunciation means getting detachment from your possessions and family. Next stage is renouncing all bad qualities and ultimately renouncing the ego. So they are very important concept here. They are covered our real nature, about truth, about dharma, about meditation, and about renunciation. So we can go to the next letter, Anupam.
Letter 4. This is page 11 in your document. Man is God. To Hislop with blessings. My dear, you'll find it deep within yourself. Think it many times. Ponder it. It tells you about your true nature. It gives you hope. It gives you new life. It points the way. It proves to you that God is within you and you are not man. Man is God. It shows you that it is possible for you to realize God, Swamiji, but you and you alone must ponder this work deeply. You will find that you will begin to know what is meant by the statement, quote, the self, unquote, cannot be explained. The mind knows of its existence. Quote, the self-God is within man. You are that self. All else is illusion of the mind's creation. The mind that creates, preserves, and destroys. My love, the great joy, the subtlety of the bliss that you will feel as you come closer and closer to your real self. If you strive to find yourself by using your mind, you will strive and strive in vain, because the mind cannot give you the truth. A lie cannot give you the truth. A lie can only entangle you in a web of deceit. But if you sensitize yourself, awaken your true, fine, beautiful qualities. Above you, nothing. Below you, nothing. To the right of you or to the left of you, nothing. And dissolve yourself into that nothingness. That would be the best way you could explain the realization of the self. And yet, that nothingness would not be the absence of something like the nothingness. That nothingness is the fullness of everything. The power of the existence of that appears to be everything. Baba. So in this letter, there are many aphorisms of the Upanishads that Swami has explained very simply and directly. The first one, he is advising Hislop, is that basic truth that we discussed in the last letter, that man is God. And one comment that Swami made here is very important for all of us to realize, that Swami is not only that beautiful form, that enchanting form with which he gave darshans and he blessed us and he was with us, but his actual permanent home is in our hearts. And that's what he's saying, that if you want to realize him, you have to look inside you, and that self is Swami, God, love, whatever you call it, it's all the same. But he's giving us one cautionary note, that don't use the mind, because the mind is fickle, it jumps from place to place. And he's saying that in the second paragraph more directly, that the way you can realize God is by going inwards and seeking him inside through faith, through complete surrender, not through the mind. Because the mind analyzes, and there is a common saying that, if you keep analyzing something, you can only dissect it based on your own mind, senses, and outer organs. But God is above all that, so you cannot reach him through that. In the third paragraph, again, this is one of the main teachings of one of the Upanishads, that God is full, he is everything, and is nothing. In fact, in the letter Om, Swami explained that the silence at the end is actually Turiya, which is the absolute composition that holds everything, yet it is nothing. So he's explaining that God, which is our own self, the uppercase S, big S, us, is above everything. And that above us, there is nothing. So that nothingness is really the complete fullness of everything. This is a very difficult concept to realize, but it's a beautiful concept that is made it so simple here. And those are my quick comments. Sai Ram.
So in all these letters we have read till now, so he's repeatedly telling us about your true nature. That means he repeatedly telling different letter, but finally bottom line is, because we don't think about true nature, or we always think we are this body, we are this mind, we are this intellect. So repeatedly saying, assert your true nature. That is Satchidananda you call, or you call Atma, you say Brahman, you are Brahman. So that is, we need to constantly, because they say, Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. You go on thinking you are Brahman, you will just become Brahman. But you need to dwell into that thought all the time. That's very important. As that is why it's also said, as you think, you become. So we you think dust you are, you will become dust. Think you are the self, you are the Atma, you'll realize that Atma. That is one thing. Always think about that. But so mind, it is really a wonderful instrument. So as I said, you turn towards God, it liberates you. And it turns towards the world, it binds you, it causes grief. So first you need to fill your mind with the divine thoughts. But Swami says the best is to, in the first letter also he said, pure heart. So don't try to use the intellect. Yes, fill the mind with pure thoughts, but try mind. It is like a, what did he say? Mad monkey mind. So it's also drunken. So it jumps from here to another, always restless. Like we say, we had some meetings also. I tell people, just we have meetings only for 15 minutes. Just during that time, I said, let us look at each other. Always people want to look at this phone, WhatsApp, or looking at somebody else, something else, or looking at the computer. You just watch next time. So that means our mind cannot be still even for 5 to 10 minutes. So how can you think about the dhyana? Just living in the moment and be focused. That's very important. Just that is why Swami says God is not called omni-past, omni-future. It's called omnipresent. He's just living the present. That is very practicing and presence and living in that. So always our mind, something I'm talking, next that guy thinks, what should I tell to him about this? Already your mind is thinking not of what that person is saying, but what he should say. So just focus on that moment, on that particular person or the particular task or particular thing, 100%. That is why being absorbed in that, that is why the mind becomes obstacle there. When it is jumping from one to another, cannot stay focused in one thing. So whatever it is, just complete fullness. That is why this Gita, Lord Krishna says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi Yekehe Kurunandana Arjuna, the cultured mind, the sharp mind is Ekehi, one-pointed. That's why did Arjuna was selected by Drona as the greatest thing? Because he had that one-pointed thing. That is why even Lord Krishna selected him. He had that ekagrata. Just he looked at the bird's eye. Even when he did that Matsya got the thing in the competition, he had that one-pointedness. We need to have that one-pointedness. When you practice that, finally you realize, here he says, above there is nothing, below there is nothing. But what did he say, Swami? I am above you, I am below you, behind you. So it looks contradictory. Above he says nothing. So when he is there, so Swami says, I am above you, below you, behind you. Now he says, I am above you, there is nothing. That means nothing is everything, everything is nothing. That is why beautifully he said, Eddi kaladanu addi ledu. Eddi ledanu chuntimo addi kaladu. Unnadokkate daivambu ennatikini lenidayyanu vishwambu kanaraya. What you say is exists, eddi kaladanu addi that doesn't exist. That means we think all these are existing. Eddi ledanu chunti, what you think don't appreciate because you don't see it, that is kanara. So unnadokkate, there's only one thing exists, that is divinity. So that is what Swami is telling. There's only one thing. Nothing means that is everything, that is divinity. For that, he says, for that you should come with me. Charanudagina satyambu tilusukonaga vishwamanchaka natodi vedalirandu. He says, without stopping, come with me and walk with me, work hard, sincere sadhana, then you will realize the divinity. So that is the three important with our asserting our nature, how to use the mind, filling with the thoughts and don't get deluded. And third thing is, see that everything is divine. What all exists is divinity and nothing else. Everything is appearance, illusory, you should think. Okay, so next one, third letter you can do.
So next one is letter 5. This is page 13. Life without goodness is not real life. Dear Rajagopal, accept my blessings and love. All are happy days to a man of true knowledge. Happiness is an internal conscious experience which comes as the effect of the extinction of a mental or physical desire. The lesser the desires, the greater is the happiness. So that perfect happiness consists in the destruction or satisfaction of all desires in the absolute being. Greatness is really independent and does not depend upon externals. It is the sense of perfection or the consciousness of the achievement of the highest end of life that is called greatness. Fame among many people is not called greatness in its strictest sense. The answer is more a question of definition, and the definition depends on the viewpoint, culture, and experience of each man. Goodness is not false or impossible, but is the one factor which gives real value of life. Life without goodness is not real life, but only a scene of the destructive dance of the evil forces which shall drown the individual in grief. Goodness is the way to true happiness. In the ultimate analysis, there is no separate entity as goodness. It obtains only in the relative plane where duality is transcended. No question of pairs of opposites arises. Raja, God is always with you, in you. Be happy. Baba. Raja, I am sending little prasad vibhuti for your health. Your health is not good. Be healthy and happy. With love, Baba. This is a letter written by Swami to a senior devotee. In the first paragraph, Swami is again reiterating the concept of happiness. As we have seen before in our studies, what is happiness? Happiness is union with God. But you cannot unite with God unless the desires are gone. And Swami said again beautifully that the richest person on earth is one who has no desires because he is happy. Everything we do, we look for happiness. Whatever you do in all our life, and that happiness is union with God. And he is explaining that in simple terms. The second paragraph, Swami is pointing out in the second and third both the concept of greatness and goodness. So greatness is a matter of definition based on which country you're from, what is your culture, what is your experience, etc. But in the real sense, goodness is the principle of life. He's pointing out that being good will give us all the happiness that we want. But if you're not good, if you're false and you're evil and you're using evil means, then you can never be happy. So in the perfect sense, the man who is good is always happy. In the last postscript, this shows Swami's compassion and love at the physical level. He's with us at all levels, but even at the physical level, he's caring for the health of his devotee and sending prasadam so that he could be physically happy at that level, at that plane. So this letter is all about being good, and that not being good is not a real life. It's an artificial life which will end in sorrow. Sairam.
So here, Swami is telling all are happy days. To who? A man of knowledge, jnani. That is why In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Jnani Atmaiva Matam. So Jnani is me. There is no difference between Jnani and God. So this is identical with God. Because God is bliss, right? So that means once you have that knowledge, you are always blissful. And actually in the previous letter also, Swami said, you are really coming closer to God. How do you know? You'll be blissful. Like there is beautifully an example, Sri Ramakrishna said, you are going closer to ocean, you are driving to the ocean. As you are going closer, you see the sea breeze, you feel. That means, hey, I'm coming closer to the thing. Similarly, you're going closer to desert, you'll find so much heat. So you are closer to sea, you'll feel the sea breeze. Similarly, you are going closer to God, then you will feel that bliss, that peace. So here, she says, you will be, once you are with God, that's why happiness is union with God. But for that, the obstacle is desire. So we all have desires. That is why we are born. So because of desire, because of our karmas. So you need to cut down the desires. That is why Swami says, if you say no desires, nobody will bother about God. Ceiling on desires. If you have 1,000, cut down to 100. You have 100, make it 10. So ceiling. Ultimately, but you really want to have absolute happiness, Swami says, you need to complete. God minus desire is equal. The man minus desire is equal to God. So you need to get rid of that desires, man minus desire. So, but it is not possible, but we need to go on trying and trying. So there are two ways, Swami says, either completely satisfy your desire. Anybody can do that? He says there are two mechanisms. Either completely get rid of the desires, you will be absolutely happy, or completely satisfy the desires. He says destruction or satisfaction of all desires. It is the solution. Either destroy all desires, so that is, we need to try, or satisfy all desires. Can you do that? I want to have a car, I want to have a house, my children. It is not, but you can satisfy all desires when you put everything in God. It is in God. That is why beautifully said, you put in the absolute being. So all your desires transfer into God. Like little, beautifully Swami said one time, you have dimes, you have pennies and quarters. All of them you convert into one big dollar bill, then it is easy to carry. Similarly, all these petty desires we have, convert into the big desire for God. Then that is not a desire, considered desire at all. Desire for God is nothing. So either you have the absolute desire for God, in which case you will be really happy, or just completely destroy the desires. And another important for this, Swami says, if you really want to be happy, one of the practical thing is being good. So always he talks about greatness and goodness. Don't try to be great, Swami says, be good. He gives always the example of Ravana and Rama. He says Ravana was great. His 10 heads represent, he was master in 4 Vedas, 6 Shastras, and he was also very great master in political science. He teaches to the opponents about the political science, and he also was good in music, in fine arts. So he has everything, but he was great, but he didn't follow the dharma. That is the weakness. Whereas Swami says in the worldly standards, Rama did not have that much knowledge. He's all-knowing, but in the worldly sense, but he was good. He was embodiment of love. He was embodiment of compassion. He was the Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. He is embodiment of Dharma. So that is what takes you to God. That's why somebody said good and God is very close. There are 2 O's only. There is God Jivodi and good Jivodi. So just take the one, just your good will become God. So any good deeds, it is God deeds. So we should have that. So that is why Swami made it very simple. See good, see no evil. Hear good, hear no evil. Speak good, speak no evil. Do good, do no evil. This is the way to God. So it is not really a very complicated thing. It's nice to know Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and Gita, so to know our real nature. But simple practicality is being a good person. That is what Swami says. That is the basic requirement if you want to do meditation. That is why I said yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara. So similarly, the practicality is being a good person. That is very important. Then you will be more in tune with God. and be happy. Okay. Sai Ram, and we'll continue. Please, Sai Ram.